Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the American Express 2023 edition. This is my top 20 pick show where I'm going to go over in detail the player field. I'm going to give you my top 20 plays from the most expensive down into the cheapies. And with that said, first and foremost, thank you for stopping by. And let's go talk a little golf. Okay, so real quick, if you missed the preview show yesterday, I just want to give you an understanding of where I'm coming from a stroke gain analysis approach, and with all the research and knowledge that I have from the past with this fine Pro-Am tournament. We are going to be focused on first thing approach, and then the next thing actually should be putting is what actually will be in the stat model. Then I just went with good drives. I've kind of been a little all over the map on where I wanted to be off the tee. And when it came down, I just need guys to put it in play here. On the stadium course, as I've talked about yesterday in the preview show, there is some very difficult bunkering. So there is some around the green, sand, short game, all that stuff that we looked at. The two procs to the pins. Again, this is the approach shot coming in after your tee shot. The number one is the 150 to 175, 25% of the time. And then coming in a close second, not really, but would be the 75 to 100. And then there's a ton of these par fours from 350 to 400 yards. And so that was in a large model that kind of filtered down to where we're at today. Also, you got to really make hay on these par fives as always, and a lot of those fall between the 500 550. Again, looking at all three courses, the Stadium, La Quinta, and the Nicklaus course. And then also what is part of the defense on this course are the par threes, 175 to 200. Some of the toughest holes actually on the Stadium course, so we're going to take a look at that. And last but not least, as Ram stated, this is a putting contest and quite a few birdies and eagles. All right, so with all that said, the other thing that I always do, of course, we did a lot of models and analysis yesterday, but one of the key things, is the comparable courses we can look at. And this is a unique kind of course and a unique kind of event, right? I mean, you've got the AT&T Pebble Beach that has the three-course rotation with the Pro-Am in the field, and I think the courses have similarities. You've got the RSM Classic that has two courses, Seaside and Plantation, and a bit of water, so I like that, and also shorter in length. You know, I'm keeping the Sony Open. I'm going to throw that in there. The reason being, we get the recent form of what these guys did in kind of a very similar way that you have to attack the course. You got to hit fairways. Some of the tougher fairways to hit are at the Sony Open. Some smaller greens, you need to putt well. And also scoring, typically you got to get in the 20 under, even though, you know, last weekend I think, 18 under won it with Mr. Siwoo Kim. But usually it falls somewhere around 20 under, which is very similar here. Then you got some of the Pete Dye courses. You got Harbor Town, RBC Heritage. Again, strategic kind of plotter course. And then you got TPC Sawgrass, the Players, which also you need to know where to put the ball. And typically guys that win there do it with irons and putting hints. So again, the Siwoo Kim, who's also won the AMEX. And then you can throw in some, you know, this is a TPC course, at least a stadium one. So I've thrown in some of the TPC courses like Waste Management, Shriners, where they play the Travelers at TPC River Highlands, which is also a Pete Dye course. So just to give you a little understanding of how I kind of filtered, and again, if you missed, the guys that do well in those courses, over the past 6 tournaments they played on them, or 24 rounds, you can see the list here. And I like the list. I like Cantlay, Kim, against Siwoo, Poston, Hadwin. You got S.H. Kim, but again, kind of take that with a grain of salt, only 9 rounds. And you can see the rest of the guys. But some of these guys did make it to my top 20. All right, with that said, we're going to go jump over to Fantasy National. We're going to do a little deeper analysis on these guys. So if you do not want to go through that part, which I can understand, but if you do, I recommend it because you do get to see some things that maybe might make you go a different direction. But I will summarize my top 20 picks so you can just kind of fast forward to the end of this if you want. All right. Let's go jump over to Fantasy National and do a little research. Okay, so I've hopped over into Fantasy National, and as always, my plug for them is if you are putting any kind of money in DFS or on the betting side, and you want to do your own analysis, hey, I highly recommend it. Out of all the tools that I've seen out there for the many years I've been doing this is the best, and this is what I share with you guys, so go check it out. Also, I did not state in my opening comments that, as always, I will provide ownership projections, even though it is Tuesday. You can start to get a little flavor of where the ownership will lie. And then also we'll take a quick look at weather and where you want to pull up, especially if you're doing showdown. Okay, got that out of the way. And as always, I'm giving you this kind of sneak peek, which is a dashboard to provide you with an understanding of what these guys have been doing very well. And I've created what I call a mini model. So that's pulling out of that larger stroke gain model the key areas that I want to focus on: approach, putting, good drives, and then those par threes, which I think are very key. Typically, guys that do well at this course end up doing well at these par threes. And then that proximity to the pin that comes in 25% of the time. That is the 5 stroke gain categories that this little model is focused on. Also, over here, you get to see birdies gained over the last 24 rounds, and then recent results. What have they done? Where they placed over the last 5 tournaments, and tournament history, how they done at this tournament. You're going to notice here, you only see, I'm only pulling up the last 12 rounds. I do want to keep this focused on recent form. If I put it to 24, it's going to pull up, some very like the FedEx Cup stuff for some of these guys. And that was, literally over 6 months ago, pretty much at this time. So I've done already analysis at 24 rounds. And then also, as usual, I plugged in those comp courses over here. And that kind of gave me a first glance of, guys I wanted to focus on. And then I've narrowed it down using the recent form. So I just want to let you know that I have no filters turned on over here. As you notice, you could throw a Pete Dye filter in, but I've already, again, done so much pre-work that I had a pretty good idea where I was going to land. And what I'm going to be sharing with you, as mentioned, are my top 20 picks. Let me switch this around and let's go by salary. As typical, this is kind of the way we work in the DraftKings or, DFS world. Oh, yeah. And I mentioned this is DraftKings pricing you're going to see. But you could also, use these picks, of course, on FanDuel, Yahoo. Just pricing is going to be a little different. All right. At the 10,000 range, you've got 5 guys. And, you can make an argument for all of them. I'm going to tell you why I'm landing where I'm landing. And you can kind of make your decision. So we'll spend a little more time here than we do on the rest of this. But right off the bat, Jon Rahm, has an amazing record here, right? He's got a win past, 2018. Played it 4 times, made a cut every time. He's got a 6. And then last year, a little bit of frustration. If you remember, he came out of that tournament. I don't know what day it was. Maybe it was after when he lost or, ended up T14, that he just was kind of piffed that this is a putting contest. So, which is interesting that he's back here. We all know he does like the California air. I mean, more of the Torrey Pines. So maybe he's going to go, jaunt over there. And maybe he's like, hey, I'm going to be there for the farmers. I might as well come a week early, do a little vacationing and with the wife and the kids. So I'm not saying that's why I'm not picking him for my top 20. The reason why I'm not picking Mr. Rahm for my top 20 is right here. The irons have made me a bit nervous. He's only gained in 1 event out of the last 4. And he's been really getting it done a lot with the putter. And that, doesn't always hold true for Jon Rahm. Now, again, he's an elite talent. I'm looking at the minutia, little details of why possibly he might not be worth the highest price tag. Also, if you've been with me for a while, I don't usually play the guys that are at the highest price tag from a DFS perspective. And also, this is a focus on the GPP. I'm not talking about cash game. You can use these picks there, but I'm looking at for the large GPP event, the 200K, whatever it is this week. I haven't even looked yet. That's what I'm building. So, building multiple teams and trying to get a little different. And so right off the bat, I'm going to tell you at 10-8, I'm off Jon Rahm. Like I said, you can make a ton of arguments. Could be world number 1. He's had an amazing career here. Amazing career and done very well here when he's played here. Just, I've got some ideas on how I kind of want to go with this, and I, my own narrative of how I'm going to play. And I also didn't like the way he kind of felt about this tournament. But, I'm not saying that I'm sure, I don't know if they'll bring that up or not in his presser, but it was kind of interesting. Okay. The next guy you fall to is Mr. Scotty Scheffler, who's been playing great golf, of course, with all the wins last year's breakout season. T7, T9, T30, at a T40, it's not the greatest CJ Cup, no cut event, and then at the Tour Championship at T2. And then he's played her 3 times. He missed the cut in 2021. And a T25 best was a 3rd in 2020 and the COVID year. Again, you got to remember that was only a 2-course rotation where they played the stadium 3 times. Then I think they booted La Quinta and played the Nicklaus course once. And I'm also out on Scheffler. And the main reason why is that his putter has been off. Now, he did gain at the Tournament of Century on the Bermuda Greens. I wanted to say past Palm, but that's not what I meant. But, I just haven't been that enamored with his game, especially with the putter. And I feel like, again, I'm just kind of going a different avenue. Now, if the putter, gains a couple strokes, he improves a little bit with the irons, then he could be perfectly fine. And then you got the next guy, Tony Finau. Again, kind of a mixed bag, but I mean, a T40 last year, then a fourth, and a T14, a miscut. Again, that's a little while ago. But, been playing amazing golf. We already know he won 3 out of his 6 tournaments he played in the fall, end of the year fall. And, you can make an argument. So I think out of these guys, I'm ended up, as you see, on Patrick Cantlay. But if I was going to go with one of these guys at the top 3, I would go with Tony Finau. Let's take a look here. Also, there was one other thing that was throwing me a bit off. I guess the putter, it has been on a long streak. So he's been gaining with the putter since July. And maybe it stays that way. I guess maybe I have a little bit of bias towards Tony Finau in that putter. I just don't. I guess all these guys have length, and it's not that you can have a mixed bag win here, right? There is no, you can't state that it's, a bomber's paradise. You can't state that as a pure plotters. We've seen both win here, but ultimately, I'm kind of leaning more to the guys that, hit a 280 in the fairway every time and are really good with their irons. So again, when I think of a Pete Dye course, just a little more strategic, a little more plotter course. That's where I'm falling. So hence, that's where I'm going. And again, I'm probably going to be a little contrarian on how I end up with my picks. So the first guy that I'm going to be plugging in from a DFS perspective is going to be Mr. Patrick Cantlay. And if you guys have been with me, or who has been with me for a while, you'll know he is not my favorite guy to play and not my favorite guy to watch. He is very blah, very vanilla. Also, if you remember right, at the Tournament of Century of Champions, I actually went with Cantlay and Schauffele as my first 2 guys in. That did not work out, but I'm hoping with, what I know about Cantlay, he's had an amazing record here. He's had an amazing record at Pebble Beach. He, I guess, can handle this format because he's shown it time and time again. We all know he's an elite talent. I've always said I kind of like him putting on bent better than I do Bermuda. But again, he's on the West Coast guy. Everything just kind of tells me I am going to play him. You can see that, he still did well with the putter, and very odd for Patrick Cantlay, but also he had to kick off some rust, right? It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, at least 3 months since he played competitive golf. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see where the ownership will lie, but he's going to be my first man in, and I told you for multiple reasons. Xander, from everything I've heard, I think Todd Lewis came out, said he is going to give it a go. He's had treatment and that he is going to play. And I don't know, man. I mean, a guy that has played a lot of golf and dealt with back issues, at any time, you go to pick up the ball, the hole, and you could re-injure or re-yank, whatever. He's also not had the greatest history here, but I mean, that's a while ago. Not the greatest. FedEx St. Jude had a pretty good ending to the FedEx Cup. And then, of course, he had the withdrawal. He played, 27 holes. He actually pulled out during his 9th hole on the second round. So, again, if I knew he was 100% healthy, I would not have a problem. You can also see that the 2 key areas, par 3s and the irons, have just been kind of not performing as well. Let's go take a look at that, at least over the last 3 tournaments. So funny enough, it doesn't show up. We don't get the tournament century. I could go look, but that doesn't really count. He was hurt. It's kind of interesting, but it must be just from those distances that he's not firing well, because shows that his irons have been okay. But anyways, I'm going to do something kind of nutty. I'm going to go back to Sungjae Im, and there's a lot of reasons that you could say you don't want to do this. But I mean, you can see his history here, his last 4 years in a row playing here. You're looking at pretty much, you almost bet him top 10, for sure top 20, and feel really good about it. Still played pretty good golf in the fall. Of course, that miscut kind of came out at the Sony, but he just doesn't play well at the Sony, which I kind of documented. It's been 2 miscuts, and then, his best outing was way back in 2017. It just got worse since. So it could be something with that course. Just maybe it's the sight lines. I don't know, the greens. But he didn't do well on all areas of the board. But, typically what we know about Sungjae is that he's elite tee to green. And if the putter goes, just gain a couple strokes, he's going to be there in contention. And you can see that second. Had a nice kind of, summer, fall into now. So maybe he's played a lot of golf. Who knows? You could come up with a bunch of reasons, but I really like Sungjae. And typically when somebody misses the cut, they should not have missed the cut. Watch out for the next week, and they're gonna, maybe focus a little more. They're gonna, and also we know he loves his course, or at least has had great success here. So I'm gonna go back to Sanjay, hoping that the ownership, kind of stays away, but we'll see. Will Z, I'm kind of back and forth. I have no issues with playing. You can see he had a good showing here last year, and kind of his game just got better and better at the Tournament of Champions. If you looked at it kind of round by round, he was getting more comfortable. I'm a fan of Will Z. I like him. I'll like him more for the Farmers. I'll be all over him there. I like courses that are very tough, long, and you have to have a very unique skill set. Now, it's not that he can't do well here. I'm a little worried that the putter might go back to what it typically does. You can also see par threes from 175, 200, which again, that could be old data. Who knows what that's pulling from? But I'm just kind of, because he did miss a bit of time. Like I said, I'm going to kind of still to wait and see. I will be all over him for the Farmers. I'll tell you that, unless he just goes out and just looks brutal. And then even then, I still think, as we know, last year, what was it? He almost had his first win, right? Went to a playoff. I just want to confirm. I get some of these. Yeah, had that little playoff last year. So with Mr. Luke List. All right. The next guy, funny enough, is you're going to be like, hey, this looks a lot like the Sony Open for you, except for, of course, Patrick Cantlay. Tom Kim, I'm going back to him. It's real simple. The guy is elite ball striker. The putter just pooped and went, lost 6 strokes. He did, you could say, hey, he played here once. He did not make the cut. But everything from a course fit tells me he should do fine here. I think he's wants to get that miscut off his back. And I'm just, I'm back in on him. So again, hoping that some people will stay away from those two guys, because I think, as I mentioned, the Sony Open in here, there's definitely some similarities. You guys all know I'm a huge Sam Burns fan. I've been on the Sam Burns bandwagon for the last 5 years, man. I watched this guy from when he was, the cheapies. He used to be my 6,000 play with Taylor Gooch. You could put those two guys together and could have some really nice teams. You don't get that anymore. He's 9,400. But the game, man, it's just been bad on all fronts. I mean, he's still been doing okay with the putter, but the driver, the irons, his ball striking, which he was typically very elite, and then he threw my Bermuda, watch out. So anyways, I'm going to take a pass on Burns and see how it goes. It's kind of a bummer because I like to play him. I'm actually playing a lot of guys in this event that typically I'm not a huge fan of or don't typically play, but you got to throw that aside and you got to say, hey, what's the best fit? And, who do you think could do the best here under the circumstances? So with that said, Brian Harman, as I mentioned, not that I'm not a fan. I don't, typically put this guy in, especially at 9,300, but everything tells me he should have a good outing here. You can see great course history here. The Sony Open, you could say he didn't have the greatest outing, but he typically just doesn't do well there. And again, kind of like the Sanjay M narrative that maybe it's the sightlines. You can see the irons misfired. He didn't gain with the putter, which typically he does, gain quite a bit off the tee. And I mean, I told you, out of all the guys that have been playing, he had maybe the best fall without a win out there. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on Mr. Brian Harman. I already told you guys in the preview show, Siwoo Kim, this is where I was going to play him. This is where I was going to bet him, not expecting him to come out to win to Sony. And of course he does. And then typically if you look at what happens when he wins a tournament, he has a miscut. So I don't know if Siwoo likes to get his party on or what the deal is. But long story short, I am off Siwoo Kim from a betting and playing him in DFS. So now if I put a ton of teams together, which I have not been, not till we get to the bigger tournaments, would I sprinkle him in? Yes. And, we already know he's got a win here. Pretty good history here. He's a Pete Dye master. Either it's just a quinky dink that he does well on Pete Dyes, but he's got a couple of his wins on Pete Dyes. He does good at Harbor Town. So everything says you should play him. And that's like I said, if he wouldn't have won last week, I'd have played him. I just typically, as some of his DFS people have been doing a long time, especially if it's back-to-back. If it was he skipped a week and then was coming, I might be on it. Also, Siwoo Kim at 9,200 is quite a price bump for this field for him. I don't know what we paid last, but I don't feel like it was no 9,200. Also, his odds were probably a little better. Cam Young, big fan of Cam Young. You guys know I've been waiting for him to get his win. Two things that one thing he does very well is hit the ball lengthy and off the tee. I think he's been still maybe leading the PGA in distance and pretty accurate. Great ball striker, right? We know what he did at the Genesis with Joaquin Neiman, but this is for me just not a good fit for him. Now, again, maybe I'll put a lineup together with the Bombers. That great ball strikers, but that's not where I'm leaning. And so I'm going to be off on Cam Young. I'm not betting him. I'm not playing him in DFS. Same with Aaron Wise. Again, huge fan, but I know the ball strikers and kind of bad putters. That's my brand of golf that typically I bet on DFS. And you can see it's not worked out so well here for Aaron Wise. Now, you got to remember, right, he implemented that new putter. He has been putting better. I mean, 8th in this field over the last 3 tournaments. So, I mean, really out of, quite a few of these guys, if I was going to plug in someone from a ball striking perspective, it'd be Aaron Wise. Let's go take a look at him real quick. I just want to see something. So I don't know if I did this for him, but I did this for quite a few of the guys to see where they've had some success. I mean, I'm just looking, just kind of the Nelson where he had his first win pretty early on, Mayakoba, Wells Fargo. I mean, yeah, I just like him on more, again, almost like Will Z courses, a little more difficult track where you definitely need the length to compete. You don't need the length here. Now, not that it can hurt you, but it isn't. I think it's kind of neutralized, a lot like the Sony Open. Same with Taylor Montgomery, right? I mean, 2 things that he does well, bombing off the tee and is a very good putter. It's just, the irons, you need the irons. And so if he gets wayward, as he did at the Sony, right, he had a great opening round, I think, a Thursday where he kept it in play. Irons were okay. Let's go take a look at it. I want to see where his irons came in at the Sony. Oh, wow. Lost a lot. 4.5 strokes. But you can see he just does it typically driver, putter. And we've seen guys like that, right? I mean, I kind of look at Wyndham Clark was the first guy that I think of. That was the, terrible irons, great with the driver, great with the putter, and has done okay there or here and some of these smaller events, which it doesn't make sense, but it has happened. Anyways, I'm going to go to Cam Davis, back to him. You can see he had a nice showing here. He's made the cut every time. And what it tells me is that not only can he navigate this golf course, but that it tells me he can also stand the long rounds. What has he done at Pebble Beach? Let me see here on Mr. Cam Davis. Just kind of curious at the AT&T. Yeah, so pretty solid. Made the cut 3 out of 4, had a 14th, most recent. So that's good. I'll look at one more thing here. Let's just look at some RBC, the AMEX. Funny enough, some people think Sanderson Farms is a good. I don't see the course fit, but I've heard it. Charles Schwab, that's a plotter. TPC, Deer Run. The Honda, ton of water. I mean, you could sit here and, there's a Sony, AT&T again. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of things tell me that Cam Davis should be totally fine here. And as I kind of mentioned on the last tournament at the Sony, typically he outscores his price tag. Now, he's gotten up there in price. Used to be you get him at, the mid 7s. And, depending on the field, of course. But typically, he wasn't out there. But, of course, he got his win at the Rocket Mortgage and it's kind of been trending. So since then, I mean, same with Andrew Putnam, though. It's kind of, when you've been doing this for a long time, it's kind of crazy to see these guys' price tags in a pretty strong field get up to like 8,700, where Andrew Putnam, again, high 6s, low 7s. You just be able to play that guy all the time. But hey, that's what recent form will do for you. And also, course history, solid. T10 is best. T14, a solid play all around. And again, it is a putting contest. And what does he do very elite? Is putting. And I like, where you can make, I say Cam Davis is probably the one guy that I'm playing as a ball striker and not the greatest putter. Just because, again, just the scoring aspects. And I trust him off the tee a little more than I do some of those other guys. Andrew Putnam, where, 280 is like maxed out with the driver, but that's all you need here. And he's been hitting fairways, okay with the irons, but just been really good with the short game. Let's go take a look here. So you can see, and again, a lot of this is not that he's spraying it way all over the place. It's he just doesn't have the distance. But the irons have been good around the green and putting. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not as concerned about off the tee. So hit the gal again. I put him in the ball striker course. He's actually a pretty good putter, though. I think he's a better putter than the average, like a Griot. I don't want to put Wise in there because I feel like Wise has been putting pretty well. Like Sanjay, Luke List, Siwoo Kim, where, literally even Hideki Matsuyama, where like, elite ball striker and just horrific putter. I think I actually trust him. And on Bermuda, Has he ever played this before? Yeah, yeah, T33 here. But again, just it's not the flavor of guys that I'm going with. Again, I'm going to go with more like the Tom Hoagies, elite irons. His putter's been better. Doesn't hit it a mile, but very accurate. Been in good form, and has had that chance to win here last year, and then went and won at Pebble Beach, which again, great comps, and was nipping at it. So likes the course. He can play in this kind of pro-am model, so I'm good with that. Occasionally, and again, this isn't just because where they're ranked in the model. I mean, as part of it, I'm kind of a occasionally fan. I've been, kind of always keeping a close eye on him. Of course, when he won the Byron Nelson 2 years ago, back to back. But his game has been in great form, and I believe it was the putter that kind of killed him at the Sony. Let's go verify. I didn't kill him, but he didn't do a whole lot. But great with the irons, maybe a little wayward with the driver because what does he hit it? 302, but pretty accurate. Anything over 60% is pretty accurate. So yeah, Adam Hadwin. If you missed a preview show, I mean the guy just loves it here. You can see probably the best course history, especially over the last 5 years. I think he came up number one in strokes gained total at this course, and he also had a pretty good showing, if I remember right, at the AT&T. And of course, same thing. Hits it less than 300, but very accurate. And let's go look at the AT&T. So 3 times best was an 18th. Not great, not bad. Let me go do this real quick. So wouldn't really say Valspar, but Fortinet, you can make an argument. But look at the AMEX. I mean, this is where this guy makes his money, and he probably knows that. So he's probably excited to be here. So I'm all over Adam Hadwin. You saw him on the cover or my lead kind of opening for the preview show. Wyndham Clark was actually on my radar. He was going to be a pick. And then at the last minute, I kind of pulled. I mean, when we saw him in the fall playing some amazing golf for Wyndham Clark, he's had a 13th here before, an 18th. Like I said, I mean, funny enough, he kind of shines almost like a Neesmith on the shorter tracks, which you'd be shocked. But funny enough, if you kind of look where he's done his damage, even the RBC Canadian this past year, not a long track, more of kind of a plotters. RSM a couple times. The Honda, again, not the typical, big boy tracks that you would think he would shine. But anyway, so I have no issues with playing him. I will probably, I don't know, again, if I for some reason put kind of a more of a bomber lineup together, he'll be in there. Taylor Pendrith, same thing. Funny enough, Taylor Montgomery and Taylor Pendrith to me are almost like the same golfer, and of course they have the same first name, but you can see the difference here is Montgomery does a better job putting. The one thing that we've seen with Pendrith, just crazy distance, and then I believe what was it, the Rocket Mortgage, is where just the way that course worked out for him. Every shot he had in was like 90 to 100 yards, and to come find out he's very good at 90 to 100 yards. And he also that week putted really well. So again, I'm just not looking for that guy that's has to have that crazy length. We just don't need it. And he played here once and missed the cut. So not on my radar. I'm gonna go back to JT Poston. Again, he's kind of funny. He's got this T21 thing going on 3 times in a row, and pretty good results here. T7 would be his best. And what does JT Poston do? A lot like a Putnam, pretty accurate, not very long, great short game. Typically relies on the putter. And where's he had his? So John Deere is a TPC course deer run. You got the Wyndham, which, not a bad comp. There's the Travelers for TPC River Highlands, Harbor Town. I told you some people think Sanderson Farms at Jackson, Mississippi. Took me a moment. There's Shriners. That's TPC Summerlin. So there's the AMEX. It just kind of shows up Pete Dyes, kind of plotter courses. Funny enough, Justin Rose was also on my radar to play, and I will play him, I think, in a lineup or two, but he's not going to make my top 20. I just wanted to go some different directions, and a lot of that was just how hit or miss. So he had a really good showing at the RBC Canadian. I think he just gained a ton with it. Yeah, so he gained almost 9 strokes with the putter, but it was good all around. But you see, it was kind of like, then high finishes or miscuts, then boom, pops at the TC, at the Houston, again, mostly done with the putter. And I think his game is, honestly, it's off the tee with me, with him. Let's go take a look at him again. He can get a little spooky off the tee, at least what I've seen. We're not seeing it here, but, if you look over these events, And so if his irons aren't popping in the putter, it's going to be a problem. And so he is definitely a kind of a showdown play, but figuring out which day to play him also is very tricky. So long story short, I'm going to pass on Rose, but I will probably sprinkle him in depending. Jason Day playing better golf, but I just can't do it. I told you guys 1,000 times. He just, either it's he withdraws at the wrong, bad times, which I feel like he's, a lot better, a lot more healthier with the back. But he also just Jekyll and Hyde with his rounds. He'll come out, almost like Spieth did at the Sony, shoot 5-6 under the first day, and you're like, oh wow, watch out, Jason Day, here he comes, and then shoot 2 over. So I don't know. That's a wait and see for me. Killer Keith, just not the guy that, if anything, especially in Mystica at the Sony where he's had good history. Only played here once at a T69, just not looking for that kind of player, elite driver. Anymore, I'm going to go with, again, Denny McCarthy to Plotter, even though, kind of a mixed bag of tournament history, but he did have a T6 here last year. Say this before, I feel like his iron game, his ball striking has gotten a little better. It really popped up. Let me see here. Yeah, he had this little run here where he was kind of irons and off the tee were, gaining on the field. Typically, we know it's going to be with the putter. And if you kind of click on where he's had, so his Honda he had a third. It's kind of crazy that that's his best finish. But a lot of water, got to keep it in play, make putts. I told you guys, if you watched the show yesterday, I have this whole thing about I think the guys have done well at Corrales will do well here. I don't know if it's because of the field and the time of the year or whatever it is, but of course Hudson Swafford won here twice, won Corrales. Hence, you're going to see my Joel Damon pick, who's won Corrales. I'm going with that narrative. We're going to see it could blow up my face, but you can see a lot of the comp courses. This is where Denny's done well. So if Denny's got a chance of winning, this is, this would be the place. Ricky Fowler, throw him right in the Jason Day category, right? I mean, watch out. One day looks like a world beater, and then the next day he could shoot 3 over. So still not on that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Showdown. Actually, I haven't had a terrible recent past history here. Kind of interesting. I didn't even give really Ricky Fowler a true strong look. So let's just go take one quick glance here. I know I've watched him. I mean, off the tee, it's been great. Ball striking's gotten better. This is what can happen. So look at that. I mean, man, if he could have been neutral, he could have been, again, like the Zozo, been right there. I don't know. It's been a little bit of a break for sure. So I don't know how much competitive golf he's played. I don't know. I'm going to wait and see. Seabez, no thanks. I mean, actually, he should fit this course, but he also should have done very well at the Sony. I don't know where his game's at, and you just can't do it with just the putter. You actually have to be in play and hit the greens. Davis Riley, again, I think of him as length putting. He really kind of came out barnstorming. What was it, the Valspar? Let me take a look here where it was. I'll just do this. Yeah, the Valspar where, and then it kind of Charles Schwab, not a terrible comp at Colonial. Just kind of navigating him real quick. Yeah, I just kind of passed, and I'm going to probably stay there. Patrick Rogers, I like it. I didn't pick him, but you can see he's been in great recent form. You can't really, I feel like he's been playing such good golf that you can throw away that tournament history, even though he's made 3 out of the 4. I think I had just a different way I wanted to go. And what was I worried about? I guess the putter. Again, I'm looking for guys that are strong on irons and putter. And yes, recently we haven't got to see, that doesn't help either that he played 3 tournaments. Of course, that's in Japan, in the Bahamas or Bermuda, whatever. And then Worldwide Tech, that's Bahamas. We don't get the stroke gain data. So I like him for a showdown play. I think it's still a good price. So if I had to pick 21 players, I'll put it that way, he would be my 21st. So have no issues about playing some Rogers. I will put him in some lineups. He just didn't make the top 20. English, I was on him last week. He disappointed a bit. At any time, Harris, I think I think he's a good bet. We'll put it that way. Maybe even a top 10 because I think, man, he's going to fire. Let me see what he did with that putter. I just believe so much in his ball striking and his putter. Yeah, I mean, he's just since the CJ Cup, he just has not done anything with the putter, the irons. I know he can get wayward. That's been kind of the bugaboo since the hip kind of thing. You see it here. The driver's been kind of his nemesis where it used to be a strength. So I'm gonna pass. Of course, he's got to win at the Travelers. I think it was his last win, which is a Pete Dye, TPC River Highlands. Yep, right there. So I don't know, kind of on a wait. Thomas Detry. Some people love this guy. Of course, the European player finally made his transition here. I'm gonna hold. I don't know. I think I heard he played at the Hero and didn't maybe play the greatest. So again, not for me. Sorry, Grio. Usually play you, but again, I told you I don't need your ball striking, no putting, not for this course. So funny enough, the guy that I'm gonna go with, and this is purely play at your own caution. Now, on one side, you can say recent form has been in Fuego. Definitely the RSM's a good fit, but you can see he's never made the cut here. So you're kind of like, and funny enough, Joel Damon just seems like a real kind of easygoing guy and wouldn't have an issue in this format. So I don't think it's the Pro-Am thing. I think it's this guy right here. It's the putter. But we all know, and I've watched it, man, where he just sticks it, 4 or 5 feet and misses the putt. You see, he did game with the putter at the RSM, but a lot of loss. So that's it, right? But he also won Corrales. I mentioned that. John Deere, that's a while ago. RSM, Houston. I don't know. I think it's a good fit for him. I think it's a great fit for his game, but it's what the putter does. Sebastian Munoz, you guys know, of course, we haven't seen him in a while. Since the Houston Open missed the cut. Really didn't have the greatest 2022. Let's go look at my buddy. You guys know I always typically play him as a first round leader. If for some reason, I don't even know what they're going to be doing for that. Maybe they're going to break it out each course so you can pick the first round leader. I mean, funny enough, the last place he had a good finish was the U.S. Open. AT&T Byron Nelson, which that's just a scoring paradise. The RSM. So again, if his putter goes, but we haven't seen him in a while, it could be very deadly. And he's got great irons at times and pretty, just a good ball striker. I put him with the Glover, the Grio, all those guys. He's my ball striker camp that typically can't putt. Chris Kirk, it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, could have had a good opportunity to win at the Sony. Hasn't had the greatest kind of Jekyll and Hyde tournament history. But honestly, I mean, this should fit him. I mean, it was, not long, but accurate. He has been firing with the putter last couple times he's been out. Funny enough, I'm always on him for the RSM, but he always misses the cut. I think he's a past winner there, isn't he? Yeah, way back in 2013. There's the Sony where he's had success. I mean, he's trying to win at that place. There's the AT&T. That's a long time. RSM. I mean, so funny that guy owns the RSM, but I feel like he's missed. Has he missed a cut the last 2 years at the RSM? By 2 course rotation. Yeah, he did. Because I remember very vividly, I was all over him. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Either he's winning it or top 5, or he's miscutting pretty much. But again, I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. This should fit him, but he didn't make it. I'm actually going back to Alex Smalley. Funny enough, great fall. Really kind of shocked me. I think the Sony should have fit him really, really good, but it did not happen. We'll go take a look at it. It didn't seem like it was anything crazy. It was just not enough. He lost stroke and a half here, stroke off the tee, where he was firing on all, and it was just the putter clicked or not. But I consider him a good putter. I could put him in the Putnam, Poston. For me right now, that's his camp. Just keep it in the fairway. Pretty good with irons, but I feel like his short game is above average. So we're gonna try him out again. Brendan Todd, I was on last week. I'm off him this week, just because I wanted to choke him on how bad his irons were. Because he actually, and also I think he had a quad. Was he the one with the quad on one hole where he drove it? I think on the first hole which he's like one of the most accurate, typical drivers of the ball. Yeah, the irons were bad. The putter was good. I mean, we all know he can putt. It's just waiting for those irons to flick over. So, I mean, again, could be a good fit. Could happen, but I'm just kind of off them. All right, I'm going to fly through kind of the rest of these guys. I'm off on these guys. Simplest way to put it. I'm on Lipsky. I liked what I saw. And he's had a T14th here before. Last 3 tournaments, he's firing where I need him. And let's go take a look at Mr. Lipsky just so you can see, again, don't hit it very long, but very accurate. And I think that's a TPC where they play the Valero. So the Sony Open, we just saw. There's Corrales. He had a 7. So again, kind of jump on that Kraus, the AMEX. Again, he's got a lot of John Deere. He's got a lot of Corn Fairy stuff in there. I told you guys I bet Luke List, and it really just doesn't make sense. I told you, I think this was purely just peeve that I didn't hit the Siwoo Kim. Got 200 to 1 on him and said, you know what? The guy is elite tee to green. And you can see, funny enough, he's done pretty well here, at least the last 2 tournaments. It's just with the putter, but the putter's been so brutal. So I cannot pick up from a DFS perspective. I did put a bet on him. But Johnny Vegas is one here, and you can kind of put him in the same camp. Where at one time he was very lead off the tee, pretty good with the irons, and it was just the putter has always held him back. I always say last time I remember him made that crazy putt on number 17 at the Players, which I think they always show the Tiger Woods one. I think it was the greatest. It was like 90 feet right here, 2019. Gained 5 strokes of the putter. If you haven't seen it, maybe it's on YouTube. Go look up Johnny Vegas, number 17, 2000 or what was it, 2019 Players putt. It was pretty crazy. Right, he owned a Canadian Open. Was that? I don't think that was where it was. That was at Glen Abbey. Yeah. Anyways, it's been a while since we've seen Johnny Vegas, and he kind of, didn't. I don't think he did anything in 2022, at least of note that I remember. Party Marty Laird, pretty good ball striker, bad putter. So no, thank you. I'm going back to my boys, the Ben boys, Ben Griffin and Ben Taylor. I'll tell you that right now. Of course, you can see he's been playing great golf. He's never played here before, but I just like his game. And I think this is where, like, the Sam Burns, Taylor Gooches before he went to live, like, you got to find these guys now and get to play them at this lower. Before that, it was Lanto, Griffin. Oh, geez, I'm blanking on the dude that just went to the live tour too. That never won a tournament but won a ton of money. Why can I not think of his name? Lanto, and doesn't matter. I'll think of it, and if I do, I'll pop it over. But anyways, so I really am going to take advantage while we can, because I think these guys are going to just keep going up in price. We're going to be losing odds on the betting side, so I'm all over Ben Griffin. Colin Tarrant, good showing at the RSM, which is a good fit. I kind of feel like he's kind of more of elite off the tee. You see he hits it a ton, but not maybe as accurate at times. And I don't really know. I mean, you can see the last 2 events just been firing. I don't know. I like him, I guess, for more of a showdown play, because I feel like this guy could definitely turn some eagles and birdies. Not picking him right now. I like him. I just not really the guy that I'm kind of looking for, as I mentioned. You got to take a lane. And again, I said that, either styles could win here. It doesn't have to be either. And you're going to see, like, I've got some guys in there, like a Cam Davis, but I'm going to hold off on Colin Tarrant, even though, again, comes up model rank number 6. Again, that's why you need to watch this, because you can see, hey, it's not a terrible now. Had some miscuts there. Ben Wyan, elite ball striker. Funny enough, had a pretty good Sony Open. I think he showed up here, yeah. It's so funny. I just remember he was on the par 3s here, if I remember correctly, just went nuts. Nate Lashley showed up last week, but no thanks, putter. But I'm going to go to Grayson Sig. Not the greatest Sony Open, but man, had a really nice fall. I had a T25 here in the past, and what he does pretty much is kind of what I'm looking for. Not super long, but pretty accurate. We need the irons, you can see, over his, since we've been tracking, not the greatest irons, but typically, kind of just a solid player. So I'm going to go ahead. Did he do it at, I was trying to see if he also, the Corral. It's not bad, a 9th. Matthew Neesmith, man. If you guys been with me, you know how often the model just loves Matthew Neesmith. But you can see that Matthew Neesmith has actually been putting, right? He kind of fell into that same camp as Clark and, well, not even Clark. That was a bad example. Luke List, Siwoo Kim, Glover, Munoz. Like, all my ball striking guys, I just sometimes can't putt. But you see, over his last 10 rounds, he's been gaining with the putter. Here we go. And been doing well with the irons. Pretty elite ball striker. And, right, he's Shriners, I think, is a good fit. Right, he had a chance to win Valspar this past year. Waste Management, I think, is not a bad fit. Again, there's Shriners, there's the AT&T, so he has made it around in this kind of pro-am, which is funny. That's when there was no amateur, so I take that back. RBC Heritage, Shriner, RSM. So let's see what AT&T pro-am was that. So this year, I believe, 2021, I believe they brought back the amateurs. I don't know how long they held him out, but anyways, don't matter. I like Matthew Neesmith. I don't know. We're gonna go with it. And then Nick Taylor, right? One at Pebble Beach. I kind of talked about this on the betting show yesterday. Pretty good track record here, 4 out of 5. And, he kind of does the things that typically, again, he's, I think, a pretty good ball striker. It's just a putter. But, doesn't hit it long, kind of accurate. And, been gaining with the irons. We can't see what happens so much here at the, Worldwide Tech or Butterfield. And been, kind of popping here and there with the putter. So for, that price tag, we're going to get into the cheapies here. Why not? Funny enough, Ben Taylor comes up number 1 in my mini model here. But again, remember, I'm just pulling these last 3 tournaments. But it is amazing recent form. He's played here twice, missed a couple of times. But everything else has been looking real good. Again, for 7,000. I think his odds went down, right? I think we got him 200 to 1 last week. I think he's at like 170 or something like that. I didn't bet him. To be honest, I don't think I bet Griffin or him for outright winner. But I'm on him, and there's not a whole lot to go into with Ben Taylor. Just been playing really good golf. He's actually got a little more distance, but still showing pretty accurate gains on Bermuda. So again, with a small sample size, I'm not sure if he ever played Corrales. He did. Not the greatest. But yeah, I like him. I mean, he's on a hot streak, and maybe that runs out. Maybe it runs out this tournament. But while, overtaking these other guys, I'll definitely jump on that. No, thank you, Brokeback Mountain, Patty Kazire. I'm back off you. And I am going with my old buddy Blackbeard, though, because if there's a guy that can plot his way around a course and make some putts, that is this guy. T5 on 2021 and a T9, so kind of, again, Jekyll and Hyde. And even his recent form. But this is as low as I'm going. Because you see, I kind of didn't pick a lot of the top guys. I can stop at like 7,000, 6,900. But we know he gains on Bermuda. And like I said, if the irons go, of course, he won at 2 places with a ton of water, which if you got to play the be nice if he just played the stadium, of course, 4 times. I think it'd be a better fit. But he's also done well. That's a long time ago at Travelers RSM, the Sony Open, which that was last year, the AMEX, which should have had the amateurs, RBC. So a lot of the course, this is kind of the course he can do well. And that's why that's my last guy in. So that's it. I'm not going to go through all the rest of these guys. Doug Anyways, I'm not going to go through the rest of these guys, but Doug Gim, funny enough, even though everything tells you not to play him, I mentioned where he does well is TPC Sawgrass. This course kind of fits him. He's can be very elite. Tee to green, you can see he has had a good showing at the AMEX. I would have no reservations of putting him in the play. So I'll kind of throw that out as my 21st. Well, maybe 22nd, because I felt like, who else did I say? Patrick Rogers. All right, so you got 22 guys that I'm pretty interested in, but you got my top 20. All right, let's go look at some projected ownership, weather, and then we'll jump out and we'll summarize these picks for you. All right, real quick. So you got to look at here. 1,200 lineups have actually been put in out of Fantasy National into DraftKings. So these are like what we saw, the people that click the stars, but this is more the number we want to look at. And it typically I like to see around 3,000. Again, it is Tuesday, but it's still going to give you a little bit of an idea where some of the, chalkier guys are going to be. And I was kind of shocked by this because I did see this when I clicked on it. That Patrick Cantlay is the number 1 highest owned, which I was not expecting that. I would have thought John Rahm. But again, it's still early. Tom Kim, again, was not expecting that. And so when my whole idea of, no one's going to, not no one, but Tom Kim and Sungjae Im would be less, that's not the case. So my top 3 guys, and of course I haven't seen this show yet because I'm making it as we speak, are the top 3 projected ownership right now. And then goes Finau, crazy enough, Jason Day. That's interesting. Rahm, and then we get back into my guys, Davis, Hoagie, Griffin. And then you got Colin Tarrant, and then my guys again, Putnam, Smalley. Will Z's up there, that Carl Yuan, Yishun Yoon. Not bad. I mean, that guy plays some good golf. I did look at him. So no issues there. Adam Hadwin, just elite on this course. Now, I've seen that, right? Or, when everything points you towards somebody, easily Adam Hadwin could go out and miss the cut here. But I like him. I'm going to go with it. Even though we haven't seen him in a while, that's maybe the only big detriment is, we don't know what his game's like. Brian Harman been playing amazing golf, and I'm back on him. Kind of shocked he's this far down. I would expect Brian Harman to be a little higher. If you want to get unique, forget all those guys at the top and start with Xander, because I don't think a lot of people are going to plug him. I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out. Unless I'll see, and I think he's got a presser, so I'm going to watch his presser. I want to hear what it was, and just kind of see what we see. So then my buddy Cage Lee, and then you got Davis Thompson, Scheffler, which is interesting. I mean, you can start off Schauffele, Scheffler. Looks like that'd be pretty unique up top. Montgomery, Detry, Lauer, and then my buddy Joel Damon is almost at 10%, which, if you're looking at course history, you would not make that choice. Will Gordon been playing good golf. I think he fell apart on Sunday at the Sony because I think I had him in Showdown finale, which was awesome. David Lipsky, he'll miss the cut. You watch. I just have a feeling if he's almost at 10%, I literally might pump that pick. Cam Young, Clark, Griot, my Poston at 8.5. Siwoo Kim only at 7.8. Grayson Sig and Dean McCarthy. There's my Ben Taylor at 7. Now I'm going to kind of start scrolling through these a little faster. Neesmith is at less than 5. Nick Taylor is less than 4. And my buddy Blackbeard is at 0.3%. And I think that's it. So that's I guess. So that's where it is from a projected ownership right now. So thought I was going to be more unique than I was, but it sounds like, that I'm not that unique right now. So might have to change that up. We'll see. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about weather. So this is right next to Coachella. I think it's the closest spot I could find to the course. It's actually called Thermal Airport. So I'm guessing that's where the private jets are flying into. Maybe some of these guys are landing there. So if you're going to be using Windfinder, you're going to want to pull this. As far as I saw, it's the closest spot, and also gives you where you can super forecast. What that does is it really breaks down hour by hour. I kind of like that, but it only goes out, I think, a couple days. Well, we do get Thursday. But what I could see was that, nothing really to worry about. I think they had some weather, maybe it was yesterday, wind-wise. All right, let's go look. All right, so no, nothing I would see at all to worry about there. And nothing here. So all 4 days, and really all I look at is at wind. A little rain is actually a good thing if you want scoring. So that's what you want to pull. Thermal Airport, check that out, and let's go jump out of here, wrap up these picks, and get you guys out of here. Okay, so to summarize my top 5 Fab 5 plays for the American Express, as mentioned, Patrick Cantlay, who I thought I was going to be, I don't know, I thought be a little unique, not so unique. Now I know, hey, he's had a great showing here. He's had a great showing at Pebble Beach. So maybe that's also what people are jumping on, but really is, I don't know. It wasn't a whole lot we saw at the Tournament of Champions, but yeah, I think he right now is the number 1 chalky, at least coming out of Fantasy National. And then we thought we'd be a little unique with Mr. Tom Kim after that, miscut. Only had a couple in his career, but again, this should fit him perfect. And of course, he lost a ton of strokes, 6 strokes to be exact, against the field with the putter at Sony, and we do not expect that. And we're expecting a good comeback. So see how that goes. Sungjae Im kind of lost across the board and hasn't had the greatest fall. Had a really nice summer, but again, this should fit him, and he has an elite track record here, so we're going to stick with that. Then Brian Harman, again, had an amazing fall and been playing good golf. Not the greatest Sony, but typically the Sony does not work out for him, but should fit perfect. And so I'm going to be going with some Brian Harman. And to wrap that up, of course, your Rocket Mortgage winner, Cam Davis, typically elite tee to green, and if he makes some putts, he'll do some nice scoring for us at a DFS perspective. So that is my Fab 5. Moving on to the next 5. We got Mr. Andrew Putnam, who's been just killing it with the putter. Also not too bad off the tee and irons. And again, when I say off the tee, 280 in the fairway is all Andrew's going to get us. We're going to need that putter to get him to score. Tom Hoagie, now, where he's, very accurate off the tee, but man, one of the best iron players. I put him right there with Henley and Morikawa. And that's what we need. And then if his putter goes, watch out. Tom Hoagie has had a chance to win here last year, and then of course won Pebble Beach. You got Cage Lee, your 2-time winner at the AT&T Byron Nelson, and just been playing solid. Again, I picked him last week. Could have done a little better, but just been playing great tee to green, and we just need a few more putts made out of him. And watch out, Adam Hadwin, your number 1 stroke gain over the last 5 tournaments at the American Express, also has done well at Pebble Beach. This just kind of fits him. Now, like I said, there was when you see, like I said, I don't know. I've just seen time and time again where the guy, everything looks like it should be a perfect match, and they go out and just miss the cut. So hopefully it does not happen with Adam Hadwin. And then JT posted, not, I look at, Andrew Putnam and them very similar. They hit the fairway 280. And at one time in the summer when Mr. Poston won the John Deere, man, his irons for 2 days or two tournaments back to back were crazy. I mean, he was just sticking darts. And so you do that for him, man, and he makes putts. Watch out. All right, my unsung hero 5, Denny McCarthy, which, I feel like from a pricing standpoint and a betting standpoint, I think he was 90 to 1. I always call out the values. I feel like Denny McCarthy, this is, Andrew Landry won here. And the only thing Andrew Landry at once in a while could putt, that was it. Now, Denny McCarthy is a better ball striker and a better putter. So, yes, the field's gotten tougher. But again, I think from a betting perspective, if I had to make one bet, in a long shot would be Denny McCarthy. Of course, I told you Patrick Cantlay from the lowest, from the expected to win 11 to 1, I think is the other bet that I would make. Of course, Alex Molly. I think of him and I feel like he fits the Poston Putnam where he's not really long off the tee, but accurate, not bad with the irons. But I feel like he's going to be and is a good putter. And so I was shocked he missed a cut to Sony and lost a little with the putter, but hopefully he also makes a comeback. Joel Damon, where I think this is my Corrales connection. He played an amazing fall, but he's never made the cut here. But I think he's done it, if I remember right, off the top of my head, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He's done pretty well there. So hopefully this, kind of breaks that mold and he has a good showing. That was probably my one play of, play at your own risk would be Joel Damon. Matthew Neesmith, a lot of times I've played this guy and it's kind of backfired, but the model, he's just an amazing ball striker. Need the putter. If that all happens, he does get around these kind of tracks, RSM, Harbor Town, funny enough, like the smaller ones, even though he's got length and kind of fits my ball striking, no putting kind of guy, but has been putting better, right? He showed up at the Valspar. I think it was the Shriners too. Is that what I saw? I don't remember, but I definitely remember Valspar where he had a chance to win. And then David Lipsky, I think this is the first time I've ever picked David Lipsky, but again, what I've been seeing, this should fit him well. And so, played pretty well last week. Let's hope that rides over. It could just, again, blow up in the face. And now for my cheapy plays. Now, typically I always did below 7,000, but again, because if you looked at my picks, they were kind of more, not so many in the 10, not so many in the 9s, more like 8s and 7s. I don't need to go super low with these guys. So, I'm going to go with my Ben boys, right? I told you Ben Griffin, Ben Taylor, both have been playing amazing golf. We almost hit Ben Taylor. He could have made a few more putts there towards the end on Sunday. Could have hit that nice large 200 to 1 ticket. Of course, Ben Griffin was right there too. I think 170 to 1. So yeah, hopefully these guys keep it going. They've had great, beginnings of their careers here on the PGA, and I think their game should suit here fine. You got Grayson Sig, almost like a Cage Lee, just kind of does everything well. Just needs that putter. Could be, needs a little bit more out of the putter, I guess is a short of it, but pretty good tee to green. Nick Taylor, right, one Pebble Beach, had a nice showing at the Sony. And so with all that, I think this course should fit him well. We know he can play in that kind of field. And yeah, so I'm going to go with Nick Taylor, which I feel like he's at price at 7,000 even. All these guys, I think, are around 71, 7,000. And then the cheapest guy that I'm going with is Mr. Blackbeard, Michael Thompson, where, again, kind of showed up here or there a little bit at the Sony. And I showed you that this is his track, that he can compete. Now, when I say that, I don't, he won the Honda, he won the 3M. If they were playing the stadium all day, maybe, but, the guy can get around tough courses. We know that. So he's going to need the putter, and maybe that's it. Maybe this is where he does not fit, is where it gets 20 or under, because he needs the putter to go. But if he has a good putter, like I said, I'm put him in there as I think he can get me 6 to 6 through from a DFS perspective, if you want to know the short of it. All right, that's it. That kind of wraps it up for the AMEX. I appreciate you guys spending some time with me. As always, I also appreciate the comments. For everyone that always puts out there the thank yous or anything, share anything. I really do appreciate that. Everybody out there also knows as soon as I see it, I respond to everyone, if it's on Twitter or YouTube comments. So either one that you want to put a comment out there or a question. I haven't been doing one and done because I told you I'm not in that this year. But I always state, anybody out of my Fab Five, you can feel pretty confident of playing. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to burn Cantlay, to be honest. Who would I want to use? I guess if I had to pick one person, maybe Sanjay M. But that burn Sanjay M burned me. Last year, I think I played him at the Honda and he missed a cut. So I don't know how much you want to take my opinion, but I feel like, I mean, the track record here is great for him, even though, of course, he just missed a Sony, but he could be unique and it could be a good one and done play. So there's my thoughts on that. All right. As always, if you click that like button to share with anybody else that you come across that says, hey, I want to get into fantasy golf, who do I check out? Send them my way. And subscribe if you've not subscribed, and enjoy the golf. It's going to be a little different. I hope PGA Live, I think last year they did jump around the other courses. I would guess on the coverage. I don't know if this is going to get on NBC, ABC, but the Golf Channel, hopefully they'll jump around. Well, by the Sunday, right, it's just one course. But Saturday, they're going to have to jump around a little bit. So hopefully you get to see what a lot of the guys do, and it's just not one set of guys, one course. So with that said, enjoy the American Express, guys. I will talk to you next week where we've got the Farmers. Pretty excited about that. Kind of like a fifth major to some degree. Well, we'll call it a sixth major because the Players is the fifth major. But it's one of the big tournaments. It's one of the elevated tournaments, so it should be really good. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Have a great week and weekend.